Keep standing on the gas, Carson. Keep standing on the gas. As long as you have shoulders big enough to take all the criticism and everything that comes with it, if you learn by standing on the gas and being up front, you're going to learn more anyway.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. California's Kevin Harvick does it. Straight naked right there. You're the man.
Welcome to Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour, presented by Echo Park Automotive and NASCAR on Fox. I'm Kevin Harvick. She's Kaitlyn Vincie, and he's Mamba Smith, dressed in a 24 geared suite. What's happening?
Listen, this is an OG. Oh, get that. This is OG. This is a Jeff Gordon shirt.
Okay.
I have a funny ad on Mamba's wardrobe.
Oh, do you? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
So he was wearing a jacket earlier, and I said, "Oh, why didn't you save that jacket for next week? Because it was Phoenix." And he goes, "We're going to Phoenix." I go, "We're not.
Yeah.
We're going to."
We're going a week off. We're going west.
My man's still on vacation.
Listen, I was at the Lil Wayne concert last night, so you know.
It's a bit foggy today.
It was a bit foggy in the arena, and it's a bit foggy right now. So
Is it? Okay. That's good. Yeah. But hey, and I didn't hold it against you. I still printed out a rundown for you.
Caitlin always has me hooked up.
Make any notes? Huh? Did you make any notes?
Mental notes.
Speaking
of mental notes, I did take a mental note of your shoes today.
Yeah.
I do love those.
Brother?
They're a little different. Got a little flair to them.
Yeah.
Got some pastel colors in there.
Piper told me they were the ugliest shoes I have.
She's
good. I'm going to wear them anyway.
Yeah, I like them. I like them.
Yeah, they're very nice. That's different than what he normally is.
What are you rocking here? You got some platform
Pumas.
shoes?
Yeah.
She's trying to be taller
I'm the
today.
most boring of the group, I think, when it comes to the footwear. You guys outkick me every week.
Yeah, on the footwear,
it's just
maybe.
kind of a contest.
Yeah.
Is it? No, it's just a running.
Just a shoe contest. It's a running
it's
shoe
contest.
It's
a show.
Yeah. How about yours? Dig those out?
No, so these actually, Bubba goes through his wardrobe and realizes he has way too many clothes. And I get a text about once a year, and it's like Christmas.
That's nice.
And so I go over, and there's bags of shoes, and I'm like, oh, fantastic.
Perfect. Gotta love it.
To buy shoes
You are the right size foot, my friend.
I have your size. Whatever you got, that's what I need.
Got it.
Well, welcome in, guys, of course, to another edition of Happy Hour. We encourage all the closers to subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Also rate the show 5 stars. Leave a review.
Yeah.
And
what? Harvick Happy Pod. Make sure you guys keep following us, keep talking to us. You know, the conversation's going. We want to keep it moving forward all week long.
Oh, we've got it moving.
We did get it moving.
Conversation's moving. That's for
it
sure.
It is in a
some
lot of
love us, some hate us.
No.
It's like, I mean, this is like driving the freaking car. There are people that just absolutely hate everything that you say, and there are people that love everything you say. I find it very entertaining.
It is very entertaining. We have a lot to recap as far as the entertainment goes that happened out at Atlanta Motor Speedway this past weekend. We'll talk about that. We'll preview Circuit of the Americas. First road course on the schedule is coming up this weekend, and you'll have your social sips that includes a lot of mail.
We got sips. We got the mailbag. Ooh, I can't wait.
Can you imagine? I, as a driver, I can't imagine going to 2 super speedway races and a road course
to start
as the first 3 points of the point races of the season. I made some notes here, guys.
Okay.
When you look, I'm going to get right off the track.
All right.
Just to spin Kaitlyn out.
Can you read these?
Ryan Blaney's first in the points. John Hunter Nemechek is 7th. Ricky Stenhouse is 8th. And then you look at the back of this point standing. You've got Brad Keselowski, 33rd. Wow. Chase Briscoe, 45th with his penalty. SVG, 34th. Noah Gragson, 36th. Josh Berry, 31st. Ty Gibbs, 29th.
Wow.
But that'll get worse. That'll get worse as we go to the racetrack this week, because there are going to be some of those guys that just don't run good at Cota as well. I mean, there's going to be some guys, we expect Ty Gibbs to be good at the road course. He's been good there in the past, but it's... you can dig a hole. And when we get to race number 4, the new season points start. And there is not a worse feeling in the world than unloading your car and having to push it all the way to the back of the garage.
How smug he looks as he says that.
But I want you to think about this. I want you to think about this. During qualifying this week, we saw the qualifying order is determined by your finish, your average running position, and the whole formula that they have.
Yeah.
And Joey Logano went out really early because of, his finishing position at Daytona and everything that happened at the end of the race. Right. And I feel like Blaney going out late and being able to rerun again sooner than Logano is what won him the pole, just by having more heat in his car. It was a cold day.
Yeah.
And I know that seems petty, but it makes a difference. And when you can go through inspection, that's how you go through inspection. Those point standings start to matter, and it starts to become aggravating, especially if it rains or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Then those things start to pile up.
Has Clint bought into this yet? Sorry, Mom.
No, you're
The
good.
whole points matter
No,
thing?
we just quit asking him.
We just stop asking.
We just ignore him.
That's fair.
And he has, I do believe that he has finally bought into believing that every point matters. Every
Everything
lap
matters.
matters. Everything matters.
Mm-hmm.
And, it started at the duels, and we've gone all the way up until this point. And you look at, a Denny Hamlin, hasn't scored any stage points at Daytona or at
Atlanta.
Because at Atlanta, they chose the handling package. We talked about that with Christopher Bell on the victory lap and their choice to go more towards handling and not any speed. But it just takes those guys a long time to have everything cycle through, and it costs you points. And unless you win like Bell did, it's really not paying off, because some of those guys have survived and kept themselves in a decent point position based off their stage wins.
Yes.
There's a few Kevinisms we will reiterate on this show. Win is the waiver, and every point matters.
And every
those
point.
are we're sticking by
They're
those.
sticking by those.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many variables, and that's why when the conversation's like points don't matter or this, I'm like, how do you figure? Because everything adds into your weekend.
Everything matters.
If you have a bad pit stall selection, or not even a bad one, but you have one and then it's not early enough, and then you get stuck behind maybe not as good of a pit crew, that's gonna mess your whole race with your whole race the entire time. So everything matters, and I think we don't talk about those things enough. I think on this show we get into that a little bit more, and I think people are starting to realize, like, oh wow, well, he was bad in qualifying, and now look at his pit stall, and now he's
It's a
behind the
trickle-down
30.
effect.
It's a trickle
Yep.
effect.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be fun.
It's going to be fun. Atlanta was fun. It was very eventful. I would say just general thoughts. We'll get into the winner and all the incidents that happened. What did you think of the race, the way the track was, the drivers able to race it, and all the different options? What did you think?
Well, Atlanta is the track that puts the drivers in the most uncomfortable position that you will be in all year. It's a sketchy race.
It's sketchy.
And another comment that Christopher Bell made today, I asked him, I said, well, your car, you went for handling. Did it drive? Did it make you feel more comfortable? And he's like, absolutely not. So even a good driving car that feels comfortable doesn't feel good. Atlanta, the tire's hard. The track length being 1.5 miles just makes it feel like you're going 300 miles an hour with the way that things are happening. Everything happens faster, and you're lifting, you're having the front end take off with the way that the car is pushed behind others in traffic. So there's just a lot of things happening at a much higher rate of speed in the car than what you'll have at Daytona and Talladega. So it's a very different style of race, a lot of lifting, a lot of moving and shaking as far as making ground, losing ground, and you got to be pretty precise about those moves. So even a good handling car doesn't feel great at Atlanta, and our winner actually said that.
Yeah, it is. You're on edge. You're on edge, and like it's weird to say that Atlanta is super speedway racing on steroids, but that's kind of what it looks like.
Kind of the opposite.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, right? Because it's smaller, but everything is so quick, and the way that the air is tumbling over the cars and how it gets disrupted when you're around a big pack of cars, like I think you guys mentioned it on the broadcast, like being up front, clean air at Atlanta makes the car drive significantly better.
We had the best thing that you can show this weekend with the foot cam with Joey Logano.
Yes.
And he was leading the race, and his foot is just
Mad.
wide open on the floor, not having to lift off the throttle at all. And then we showed his foot cam when he was back in traffic, touching the brake, letting all the way off the throttle, just constantly working the pedals. And I think that, that gives people a much better appreciation of how much is actually happening inside the cars. But Atlanta, for whatever reason, well, I mean, it's just because it's short and there is a lot happening. You can see a lot more things happening. We had a great aerial this week, the cars and how they're staggered, trying to get air on the nose of their cars, and 2 wide and 3 wide. Just a fantastic race. And when you look at, the guts that it took for Marcus Smith and those guys to change that racetrack and ask for the super speedway package and all the things that went with that, they have changed the direction of Atlanta Motor Speedway into being probably the most anticipated race on the schedule.
It creates photo finishes every race. Every race finish is spectacular. And I think we talk a lot about super speedway racing and luck and this. There's a lot of skill. Those guys are wheeling these things around Atlanta. And even in that in car you're talking about, Joey, you can see the steering shaft You can see the steering shaft just moving because he's just fighting that car the whole way. It's just insane what they're doing at Atlanta right now.
Yeah, and here you see, obviously, Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson. This is as we're coming down to the wire. What did you think as you saw this unfolding here with these guys?
Well, I mean, you see Hocevar right there in the mix, and he was aggressive all night. And unfortunately, we had the caution, and I guess we need to address the caution right off the bat.
I was going to ask,
the race was fantastic, and the caution being thrown there going into turn 3, I think
it was into turn 3.
Yeah, I think that people want to see the drivers race back to the checkered flag, but there's really no way around throwing the caution. We can't have the guys driving through wrecked cars and debris fields like we have in some of those races, like you saw in the Xfinity race. They should have thrown the caution on Saturday.
Yep.
The Daytona 500 should have had the caution thrown, and unfortunately, those are just things that are going to have to happen to keep the drivers safe. I know it would have been better if we were consistent about it, like we talked last week.
Yeah, ahead of time.
Yeah, we went rogue, and we went from the duels to the Daytona 500, where we did the exact opposite from the officiating side of things. But I feel like the drivers probably stepped up and said, "Hey, this is not how this needs to go," because of the fact that it's okay until we do like we did with Austin Dillon and shove him through the fence at Daytona because nobody's letting off the gas. Right. And that's what'll happen. It'll evolve to the drivers not letting off the gas. So I feel like it's not popular, but the caution being thrown when cars are turning all over and nosing into the fence and hitting each other is a scenario that you have to throw the caution. And this one, I felt like was done right.
Okay, there you go. So he believes the right call was made.
Not popular.
It's not a popular opinion.
Yeah.
But I mean, so let me ask you this. Do you think, I don't remember why we went away from the 3 attempts. I don't remember exactly why we did that. But do you think we're to a point now where we should bring back the 3 attempts?
No, we've been down this road. Yep. We had 0. We had unlimited attempts, and we wrecked, I think, 7 or 8 times at a truck race one time, had 7 or 8 green-white checkers, and then we went to 3 attempts, and we just wrecked in all 3 of them, and especially when you get to the super speedway races. And at some point, you have to draw the line to say we can't just wreck every car in the field. And, there's a balance of being able to put all that into perspective. But we can't keep going around this same circle, right? Like now we're back, we need to race to the checkered, and we don't need to throw the caution. Well, that's okay, but everybody's going to floor it and drive through everybody, and somebody's going to get hurt.
Yep.
We all want to race to the checkered flag, but we can't. If we have 3 attempts, we'll just wreck 3 times, and then it just gets to there's a cost factor that goes into this, and a common sense piece that goes with it as well. So, I know everybody wants to. We've already been down this road, and we've already been through all these scenarios. And I feel like as you look at that, you want to see them race back to the checkered. But if you add more green-white checkers, you're just going to wreck more stuff.
I hope that it gets to the point where they immediately, like, if we see on the white flag lap, if you see someone wrecking, just get that.
There's some criteria that's going to. There's some common sense that has to go into that. Like we saw Riley Herp spin at Daytona into the infield.
Yep.
Didn't have any issues. The green flag stayed out. When they all wrecked on the back straightaway, they should have thrown the caution. And I think this week, pretty much the exact same scenario going into turn 3 at Atlanta down the back straightaway. They threw the caution for what was a very similar wreck. So I think that you have to err on the side of safety, not the other way, because the other way could have repercussions that nobody wants to see.
Right.
At the end of the day, the competitor's safety is first and foremost most important. And that's what really this is about. Yep. So I got a little overzealous and I jumped ahead, and it's your turn to recap the word, of course, phrase, I should say, that Kevin
let's bring that up. Let's bring that up.
Here, you go ahead.
Listen,
it's pretty easy this week.
It's pretty easy, and he did it seamless. But everyone is focused. They know it. The Twitter blew up immediately. It did immediately once you said it. Run the tape.
Clint, we're seeing some big moves behind these guys. You saw several rows of those cars 3 wide, and some of those guys are putting it on the top and letting the big dog eat.
Larry? Yeah, I just want to follow up on what Jamie Little just reported about good to go on fuel. I'm seeing it. Everybody at the front is wide open. They are bending the firewall, and the time support it because just a few laps ago, almost everybody in the field ran their fastest lap of the race.
That's letting the big dog eat, Kevin. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you there, but I like it. I like it.
The Clint part was so great. I'm glad he called it back.
I've gotten to the point where I just don't tell him.
Yeah.
Because
okay.
I want to see if he notices.
Right.
But he can tell. He's got to the point where he can tell when it's the word. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, like
I'll just look at him like, and he'll just start laughing.
that one was
great.
very smooth.
It was seamless.
I mean, they all really have become that way. But as I was listening, and I immediately texted you, I was like, seamless.
There it is.
Period.
There it is. No, I think.
So you knew the word?
He always tells me.
I let
Okay.
I let the team know. But
The team has to know.
Yeah.
We got to be on the lookout
Yeah.
and make sure we're
I
working
gotcha.
together.
Yes.
but the fans know because they.
So were you watching?
Yeah, I was.
Okay,
watching.
so you heard it.
Yeah,
I was
heard
just.
it.
I mean, I didn't know.
I heard it. I was dying laughing. I'm like, oh, there. I get so excited when it comes up.
He's
Especially that
insinuating
one.
you didn't even watch the race.
I know.
Well, I was
You
just
see that?
asking.
He wasn't insinuating.
wasn't-
He was asking.
Double checking.
Yeah, I was just double checking.
I was locked in.
Well, good job.
Thanks.
Well
How
done.
about you?
I
And that was
appreciate
one you came up with, not
Yeah.
from the drivers, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
that was
that
why
was-
it was so simple.
Yeah. Yeah, it's simple, but it was a good term.
It's
It
a
was a
good,
good-
racing term.
It's a good
Yeah.
racing term.
Yeah.
That's why I like
exactly right.
mixing it up.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the bar is high for next week at Cota. So either you pull from your own arsenal or the driver's suggestions.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was last year?
Coda?
Kerfuffle.
Kerfuffle.
I watched
yeah, we
the
had that
race
big
back,
kerfuffle
and
with the
that's how I
47.
remembered
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that was awesome. Okay, we're gonna have to.
Now that one really caught everybody off guard. And Mike
Ken
Joy
Squire.
was so freaking happy. He was so happy when I said he looked at me like, "Oh my God, kerfuffle."
Yo,
This is the only time he's
you're
like the word of the week.
We'll be two-stepping it. We'll
Yeah.
find some good word.
Yeah,
in there.
we will. Well, let's go back to Atlanta, guys. And I want to hit on the winner, Christopher Bell. By the way, the Victory Lap interview is now available, of course, with Kevin. What stood out to you from when you spoke with him?
Well, there was a distinct strategy between the Toyotas for the most part at Joe Gibbs Racing to have slower cars that had more drag and downforce in their cars to make them drive better. And when you looked at I feel like the Fords are in a better spot than the other cars just because of the window that they're working in on the super speedways to be able to make their cars handle, to be able to push, take a push. All the things that you need on a super speedway package it's just a little bit easier for the Fords to be able to do that. Now, when they finally got the Fords buried in the pack, they also push worse in traffic. So it made it a little bit harder for those guys to get their track position back. And we never saw Joey Logano again. They took the stage points in stage 2. Ultimately, he wound up wrecking on the last lap there, but he never made it all the way back to the front of the pack. And I felt like, as long as those guys could keep themselves up front, they could stay somewhat close to the front. But we saw Blaney get buried, 9th, 10th, 12th, somewhere in there, first half of the race. And so we started to see a lot of the Chevrolets get in the mix. We saw Bubba Wallace. I felt like the 2311 Toyotas were better than the Joe Gibbs Toyotas.
Yeah.
As far as speed,
so.
and they had seemed like they had a little bit better, a little faster package and could still handle well. Bubba and Tyler, they had that top groove working really well. But as the race went on, we saw Todd Gilliland blow a tire. We saw some different mistakes. We saw Brad Keselowski had trouble in the pits. So as they got some of those Fords mixed up and got some of those Chevrolets up there, I really thought it was fairly even as long as they could keep it mixed up. But I still feel like the Fords had a slight advantage and kind of fumbled the bag again and didn't get themselves in a position to win the race.
Yeah, they're just so fast on the super speedways, and they also have a goal and they stick to the strategy, which is we're going to control the race.
Yeah,
like as a group, like even because the Team Penske cars, they've been the fastest. They're up front. Those 3 guys have more experience for the most part.
And Josh Berry you can
Josh
add that
Berry's
into
right
that
there too.
Penske mix this week.
100%. So they know what they're trying to do and they execute it so well. It's they're very calm being up front.
And I felt like at the end of the race, the Chevrolets didn't do a very good job. I feel like Hocevar kind of had everybody riled up there at the end. And he and Chastain went to racing each other and just passing each other and just constantly moving around. And Kyle Busch was in that mix, and there was definitely no willingness to really work together and try to keep that track position to to control the race more at the end. They all wanted to be the leader. Nobody wanted to be the second place guy. And I get it. But it doesn't feel the same as what the Penske cars do when they're in that position to be able to try to keep control of the race by helping each other a little bit. It kept everybody in the mix when those Chevrolets would start dicing it up.
You guys started talking about Carson Hocevar. He is probably going to be one of the bigger stories leaving this race, making no friends throughout the course of the day. Ross wanted to talk to him. Ryan Blaney wanted to talk to him. Kyle Busch was mad at him.
Yeah, Kyle didn't want to talk to him, though. He just wanted to let him know.
He aired his grievances on the radio, which we all heard, very choice language and name-calling in that regard. How aggressive is too aggressive? Do you think he did anything wrong, or is he just...
Keep standing on the gas, Carson. Keep standing on the gas. As long as you have shoulders big enough to take all the criticism and everything that comes with it, if you learn by standing on the gas and being up front, you're going to learn more anyway. You got to be willing to just take those chances and do the things that you have to do to try to win races. He was in position to try to win his first Cup race. Now he did, he made a big mistake with Blaney and got off center and spun him out. I didn't see exactly what really made Kyle Busch mad, but I mean, he was making aggressive moves all day, and that's what you have to do. I think you guys have heard me say this enough about this car. The aggressor is going to win 9 times out of 10. And he has a driving style that is very aggressive. He's not scared to put that car in places that it shouldn't be and take chances. And, it's bit him. It's going to bite him. Mm-hmm. And, there's going to be some times when he's got 4 or 5 guys mad at him after the race. There is no better way to learn. Why would you not want to learn by being in the front racing against the guys that are winning the races and running up front? And he's going to take a lot of heat. He screwed a lot of things up, but he got out of the car and said, "Hey, I made some mistakes and screwed some things up." And like I say, if he can have big enough shoulders to not back up like they've done with Chastain here and there, when they got on him for being aggressive, and so you have to be able to balance all that and still be able to have that aggressive nature and make those aggressive moves. But you got to clean some of the mistakes up. You can't keep making the same mistakes. I don't think he's going to do that, personally. I think he's very talented. But I would advise to just block out the noise and keep that pedal down.
Those Spire cars are going to have speed.
That Spire car
has speed. But altogether, they're going to continue to have speed, I think, throughout the year and be in the mix more so than they have ever been. And I'm with you. Let him run. Like let the kid run. And how else are you supposed to learn? You know what I mean? Like if you're just running in the back, you're not really learning the same things you learn with the best drivers in the world up towards the front. So he made the race-winning move. I feel like he made a race-winning move, pushing the 20, because he kind of gave him so much of a run. It pushed him out of the way and gave him an opportunity to go through the middle. And then the caution came out. If the caution comes out, 5 car lengths later, the 20 probably doesn't win. You know what I mean? Like, they were really splitting hairs. And the way people are mad, I get it because, Blaney for sure, because he got turned around. The Kyle Busch thing, I didn't really see, to your point. The Ross thing, I don't know. They're all Chevrolets, but, like, they're not teammates.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like...
Well, I think, and I don't know this for sure, but I think the frustration I'm sure that Ross had is kind of hung him out there one time and they didn't try to make even an effort to defend against the Fords and the other groups when they had position with multiple Chevrolets. And sometimes it's better to figure that out as you get towards the end. And I think once that they all got frustrated with Carson, I think they just said, screw it. I'm not going to sit here at all. I'm going to pass him the first time that I get the opportunity because that's what he did to me.
He did to me.
And, I think that, it's unfortunate that the Chevrolet pushed the Toyota to the win.
Right.
But that was the first car in front of him. And he put himself in position to be in the middle 3 wide to have a chance to win the race if they race all the way back to the start finish line. So it's unfortunate that he feels like he pushed the Toyota to the win. But it's also very fortunate that I feel like he put himself in a position to win the race if you race back to the start finish line. So, like I say, as long as he has big enough shoulders to take all the heat that goes along with standing on the gas and ruffling some feathers along the way, he's going to learn very quickly how to do what he needs to do because he's very talented.
Yeah, he's fast.
We like feuds in NASCAR. Do you think it carries over? Maybe like Kyle Carson
Yeah,
in the future? You think this continues?
Yeah, so here's what happens.
Yeah, okay. Here we go.
Okay, tell
Here's
us
what
what
happens.
happens.
What
Lay down.
happens when you get in these scenarios and you start making people mad? They make it hard on you. They'll shove you out of the way. They'll spin you out every once in
Arrow
a while.
block you, all that
But
stuff.
that's okay. You'll get past that. You will get past it. I've been there. I've run into people. I've spun people out. I've made people mad. And it becomes hard when you in your pit stall and that guy's having a bad day. And the next thing you know, you can't get around him or, you're in a position where you need a push and that guy sticks you 3 wide. Those are the types of things that start happening. But that's okay. You're still going to learn more by taking your lumps that way when you get the opportunities like he had this week to be able to showcase your talent, put yourself in a position to learn. He's going to learn from what he did with Blaney. He's going to go back and watch that film. He's going to go figure out why Kyle Busch was being so mad. Might not agree with that one.
Right.
He might agree to disagree, but he's going to listen. The best thing you can do is just take the advice of the veterans, listen, and then make your own decisions quietly in the race car on your own. Yeah. But do not let off the gas.
So,
there you go.
Yes, I do think it's going to carry over because to those exact points. Like it might not be something that all the fans can see like immediately, but they'll race him harder, just like they did with Ross, just like they did back in the day with Kyle Busch. It's how this operates.
Evolution.
It's evolution, and it's self-cleaning or self-policing, I would say,
to a certain degree.
So, let him run. Let's see it.
And number of drivers already had some words with him after the race. One incident that I'll be curious if these two will discuss what transpired on the racetrack is with Austin Cindric and Kyle Larson towards the tail end of the race, lap 258. Austin Cindric had a pretty respectable good day. He led 47 laps, thought he was in position, obviously, to win this thing. Saying Larson not clear is the transmission he said on the radio about this.
Yeah, well...
What'd you see?
The way that I explained this to Keelan last night is we're getting towards the end of the race, and you got to put the guy that's trying to pass you or around you in the worst position possible. And Larson went up the racetrack, and when he goes up the racetrack like that, you get to a certain point where when Austin Cindric lifts, that car just goes straight. And to me, that's what it looked like happened. He finally realized that Larson wasn't going to give him any room, and he had to make a decision, and when he lifted, it went straight. And Byron was coming up the racetrack, and I don't think he had any idea that Cindric was coming down the racetrack, and they just met in the middle right there.
It was an untimed situation.
It's that scenario right there is a block that you don't make all day. And when we talk about the block that Denny Hamlin didn't make last week, and you look at the results of this one, that could have very easily hooked Larson in the right rear and stuffed him in the fence. But those are the chances that you got to take. To win these types of races is put your car in a position that it shouldn't be and see how it works out. And those are the things that Kyle Larson and some of these guys do well. They're willing to crash and willing to take themselves out of the race by taking the risk to win the race. And that was ultimately one of the moves that could have been a winning move if it shakes out in that scenario at the end down the back straightaway when the caution comes out. So I understand Austin Cindric's frustration. He had a great day. He was my pick to win the race. I thought he was still in contention to win the race at that particular point. But Larson put him in a bad spot that, it was questionable. And Larson said it was his fault after the race. But you got to be willing to put yourself in those positions to take that chance to win the races.
Kyle Larson finally finished one of these. That was a big deal. And he won a stage. How about that?
Unreal for that. I mean, it's shocking that we're talking about that, and has a hard time finishing and collecting points at any of these tracks. That's so weird because he's so good. So if you're trying, it's the end of the race. You got to do everything you can for yourself. If I'm Austin Cindric, I'm mad because I thought I could have won the race in that situation, and I feel like I got pushed into the fence. If I'm Larson,
you did
right, and you did. And if I'm Larson, I got to protect what's mine or what I'm trying to do for my group of guys. So I don't want anyone to be overly reactive to this because I want to see more of this. I want guys pushing it and putting each other in compromising situations and making someone make a mistake because the one who doesn't make the mistake or whoever has the biggest balls to get it off the corner, that's great racing and that's what we come to watch. So that's entertainment. That's cinema. That's what I want to see.
You're either willing to do it or you're not.
Yep.
And we saw it last week at the end of the Daytona 500 and we saw it this week at the end of Atlanta, right? Like you're willing to put your car in a position that it shouldn't be to win a race or you're not.
Denny Hamlin has 60 plus wins, right?
No.
Does he not? 50?
His goal is to get to 60.
Oh, his goal is to get to 60. You would know that. You would know that. So his goal is to get to 60 is a bunch. Logano has 3 championships. Those are 2 guys that love putting people in compromising situations, and they win a lot.
Yeah. And I've raced around Kyle Larson. He's very good at just making you think that I'm going to run him out of room right here. And then at the last second, he'll leave you 2 inches.
Yeah.
Right?
Because it's just enough.
But it makes you, he has that reaction to do those types of things, to put Cindric in that position. Ultimately, I think he would have left him maybe a car
more.
width.
Yeah.
But when you're going up the racetrack like that, you've got to make a choice at that point as you're going up the racetrack. And it all happens really fast. And you know, for Austin, it wound up putting him in a fence. And, you know, the 5 kept going and then 24 and the 2 wrecked. But, you know.
Racing, right?
That's the end of a super speedway race.
We're talking about Kyle Larson. His Hendrick Motorsports teammate Chase Elliott was involved in an incident earlier in the race, lap 149. Chase was in it. Brad was in it. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. as well. This is one of the bigger ones. Kevin was educating me on toe link repairs also as a result of this.
Yeah.
What did you see going on here?
The end of that right there is after the 47 and 19 make contact door to door, and then the 47 shoots up the racetrack into the 9, gets the 9 in the fence, breaks the right rear toe link. He goes straight down the straightaway, and the car hangs a left and collects a whole bunch of cars right here. Brad Keselowski got the worst end of it. You see Corey LaJoie right there, but Keselowski pretty much T-boned him right there and knocked the radiator out of his car and ended his day. As you see the toe link break right here at the start-finish line, and Brad has nowhere to go. So Brad's in a tough spot. That's the tough spot about having 2 super speedway races at the beginning of the year. Like we talked, sometimes you're just in these scenarios that are tough to get out of. But the thing I can tell you, and especially at this particular race, being in the front's better than being in the middle or the back.
Yeah, because you come off of turn 4. If someone has to lift, it starts accordioning. We talked about it off camera. The way that the track is, you got guys coming up and guys coming down, and it gets really tight.
Natural.
3 wide.
It's a natural corner exit at Atlanta. The way that banking just rolls out of the corner so fast onto the straightaway, it almost throws you to the outside of the racetrack. And when Briscoe, when he hit the outside wall and came back down in the next wreck that we'll see, same. It's a different scenario, but same scenario where it all funnels down to where the bottom lane's coming up the racetrack for the tri-oval, the top lane's coming down, and when somebody's in the middle that you don't really recognize, that hole closes up quick.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. Lap 204, Chase Briscoe, who you just referenced, into the wall. That starts another chain reaction. He makes contact with Chris Buescher, who then spins into Alex Bowman, who'd been having a pretty decent day up until that point. Obviously, Chase Briscoe's been in the news a lot. We will talk about that momentarily, but what all did you see here?
Well, Briscoe hit the fence. He got tight in the middle of the corner, hit the fence, and had to get his car off the wall and make the exit of the corner. So see him hit the fence, and he's coming back down the racetrack. And with these cars, there's really no contact there other than Briscoe coming down the track and hitting the right front of Buescher's car. But for whatever reason, when you touch the right front of these cars right with the side of another car, it turns them around. And this was the start of the wreck after Chase got tight. These cars are super sensitive, and we saw all day a lot of lifting in the corners, and you had to position your car correctly to get yourself some clean air as much as you could on the car. But very tricky track to drive as far as car position, getting your car to turn. We saw a lot of guys struggle with it more than others, but usually these wrecks are caused by somebody having to check up.
Right. It's the accordion effect that typically you see at Atlanta.
That's right.
Now that's making these wrecks happen, because it's not like anyone's doing anything egregious for the most part. They're just, by the time it gets 3rd, 4th row back, you're backed up really far.
Yeah.
Speaking of egregious, let's move on now to Cota weekend. And starting with this news item that happened since our last show, NASCAR issued a massive penalty to Chase Briscoe after the Daytona 500 docked 100 driver points, 10 playoff points, 100 owner points. Joe Gibbs Racing was fined $100,000 and a suspension of crew chief James Small for the next 4 weeks once this whole deal actually begins for the modification to the spoiler base. This is about the last thing anybody needs to start out the year.
Well, I think that I guess we don't know the whole scenario other than what NASCAR said. Obviously, the team is going to appeal the penalty. It's a massive penalty because it has put Briscoe 45th in the points.
He was negative 67 when it first happened,
and
before Atlanta.
So that puts them in a position to where they're probably they're gonna have to win, and they expect to win anyway. But with the way that the year has started, it is a long ways from the Daytona 500 pole.
It is,
and the success that they had. But when you go back to the Daytona 500, he qualified on the pole, right? And we saw some searching around the roof hatch a little bit, and NASCAR didn't say or do anything. But when you qualify on the pole for the Daytona 500 and your car is intact, you're going back to the R&D center.
Yeah,
and they took that car back to the R&D center and ultimately found something that they didn't like about the Briscoe car. So it'll be interesting to see how all this plays out as we go through the appeal process.
It is a hefty fine.
A distraction as well for the team anytime something like this is happening.
Yeah, I think those guys are professionals and they'll, persevere through it, and they know their jobs, and they'll probably have a plan for if and when James has to start his suspension and start serving that. So I think they'll be okay from that standpoint. But, James and Chase, they're brand new together. Like, the whole team is new, new drivers. So you want to get that cohesion together so you can make waves when, the dog days of summer hit. And now this will set that back a little bit, but hopefully they'll be able to keep in fast cars to the racetrack.
They're going to learn a lot about each other really quick.
Real quick.
And that's how these scenarios go. We've talked about this in the preseason. We talked about this after the clash and how important it was for Denny Hamlin and those guys to get off to a good start. Briscoe had a decent start.
Bubba Wallace has had the best one out of the guys that are in new places.
But I think for Briscoe and James, this is really going to test who they are and who they develop into being, because of the fact that they're going to go through so many questions, so much adversity, be so far behind. And all we have to do is listen to the radio, and we'll be able to tell how that is going. And, I think it's important for those guys to take a deep breath and figure out how to work through this and stay focused. But we're going to find out.
Yeah, those radio conversations are always a good indicator on how the marriage is going.
Oh, yeah. How connected are we here?
How connected are we? Where's our chemistry? All right, so next up for NASCAR is Circuit of the Americas, as I mentioned at the top of the show, first road course of the year. Big changes line ahead for the layout. They're now going to be utilizing the national course, and it's extended from 68 to 100 laps. And fans will have 50% more action in front of them, which was one of the things Marcus Smith was talking about with this new layout, the pavement, everything. What do you see here, and what are we in store for?
Well, there's a lot of new pavement around the racetrack. I think that the national course that they were going to use, that the supercars used, and some of the other was a little bit too rough. So they actually paved a new section around the backside of that they're going to cut through from 6 over to I guess what we'll call 6B and off to 12, 11 and 12.
I think.
So it's going to be interesting because of the fact that it's a shorter, less technical racetrack than what it was, with the big chunk of the racetrack being cut off. It cuts that back straightaway down quite a bit. I would expect our normal players to be in the mix on the road courses. SVG is obviously going to be in the mix, and William Byron was on point there last year. The Gibbs cars have been really good at the road courses. So it'll be interesting to kind of get our first feel of where everybody's at from the road course standpoint. And we haven't even been to a true oval yet.
We haven't been to a true what we do.
Yeah,
what we do.
True intermediate or a short track or anything along those lines. But it's a big change for the drivers. You know, Bell said in his victory lap interview, he felt like super speedway races gave him the week off as far as preparation and things go. And now you go into a road course where it's the highest level preparation that you have all year, the first one that you've done, you know, this particular season. So it'll be fun to see the guys get out there and have some practice and be able to see them adjust to, you know, that new section of racetrack.
Practice will be very important coming up this weekend. And it seems like the same group of names have always kind of been in the top 5. There's a few of them that have done it every time we've been there. Reddick, Chastain, Bowman's always been good there. So who are you watching?
Am I correct in saying that Connor Zilic is in this race?
You are.
I'm
watching
watching
his
him.
Cup Series debut.
I'm watching him.
That's good. I like that.
We used to be able to pick road course ringers, right? You knew, and like even with SVG coming, you know that he's like a dog, but everyone has gotten so much better at these road course races that the field that can win is kind of bigger. But then you throw this kid in here. Whew.
Wasn't that your bold prediction that he was going to win, or did I make that up?
No. My bold prediction is that he's going to make a round or two in the playoffs. SVG.
Oh, SVG. I was thinking Connor Zilic. I could have sworn you had some prediction about him.
If Connor Zilic wins this race, I wouldn't be shocked, but I don't know if I would just like pick him. But I wouldn't be surprised.
The hard part about Cup racing there's so many other elements that are so close when you talk about pit stops and pit road and details, and when you get behind in a Cup style race, it's just harder to make up track position like we saw him do in the trucks and you know, the Xfinity car. He just went out and just absolutely smoked them. But when you get to, I guess it'd probably be the 4th pit crew in line, you know, at Trackhouse,
right?
And you start having those little details get you a little bit off. He's going to be fast and could qualify on the pole. He could. You know, he could be right up in the mix, but you got to do all those other things really well, and he's never done that in a Cup car. But I expect him to be super fast.
You mentioned pit road. I watched the race back from a year ago and listening to you talk, you were saying it's one of the narrowest pit roads on the circuit. You're also saying how physical this racetrack is on the driver's side. So can you tell a little more detail of what that was like?
Well, pit road is, I mean, we saw it bite Kyle Busch again this week at Atlanta. And those guys have had a tremendous amount of trouble just dotting the I's and crossing the T's to have a complete day when their car is fast and they're in contention to win.
Unreal.
Same thing with Brad. I mean, he got stuck in his pit stall, got in the back, got wrecked. So that can happen really quick here. The pit stalls are on your left, so it's a little bit different than it's the opposite of what we would do on a normal at Watkins Glen. It's on your right. On your right.
Right.
So Watkins Glen, it would be on your right. So you have a lot of these guys have a lot of reps at the Glen, but it's on your left, but the pit stalls are really narrow compared to what you're used to is what I'm trying to spit out here.
You'll get there.
You got it.
I'll get there eventually, but just give me a second. So the pit stall is on your left, like normal. It's not like Watkins Glen that is on your right, but the pit stalls are very narrow. So it creates a little bit of a different visual because of everything that is happening with the length and the narrowness of the pit stalls. And so it winds up being very compact.
Yep.
But we've seen mistakes on pit road every freaking week. And whether it's the driver, we saw Denny Hamlin drive through too many pit stalls this week. I mean, that's an elementary error that you just, you can't have in today's day and age of NASCAR to keep the track position. You just can't overcome those penalties and get yourself back up to the front typically. So not making mistakes on pit road, being on point as soon as you can because of the non-traditional size of the pit stalls and things that come with this. So tracks, I mean, road racing is super physical in general, just because of everything that you have to do inside the car, and you have to drive the crap out of these cars.
So do you think we're gonna get? You said it's less technical this configuration.
It's still pretty technical.
Is it okay?
Yeah,
I was gonna say, are we going to like Watkins Glen type where it's kind of you can really drive the car hard without having as many negative repercussions? Like Sonoma, you got to be pretty technical.
Yeah, well, you're going to cut out that 7, 8, 9, 10 section of the racetrack, which was a pretty technical racetrack, piece of the racetrack where they would drive through the dirt, and you had a couple sections that you drove through before you got to turn 8 right there. So you're taking out a pretty technical part of the racetrack and just adding, to what seems simple turns. We'll find out how simple that actually is. It'll be pretty simple from the booth. We can just tell you if they're doing it right or not. Doing it right or wrong. I mean, one's faster, one's slower. I don't know, but I think overall it's going to add more laps to the race, so the fans will have the cars coming past them more times throughout the day. So I think that's really the goal here is that. And we had all the dirt on the racetrack. I don't think that they probably came to a conclusion of how to fix that corner of the cars driving in the dirt. Yeah. So I think this was a good compromise.
It's going to be very entertaining. As you said, you'll be in the booth. I'll be there on pit road with you guys.
I'll be cheering you on. No, I'll be cheering you on from the house.
Okay, from the house. That's nice. And the race fans, if they're there, they have some fun things in store for them with Echo Park, right, Kevin?
Yeah, Echo Park it's the Echo Park Grand Prix this week. So Echo Park has been a great part of everything that we've done. We had the restart zone this week, and we'll continue that this week. But race fans, if you're visiting Circuit of the Americas for this weekend's races, don't forget to check out our friends at Echo Park Automotive Speedway Experience, featuring games, racing simulators, a custom Cota pace car, and meet and greet with Kyle Petty and our very own Michael Waltrip.
Yeah. That's nice. Yeah. That sounds good for the race fans.
Doing a great job activating.
They are.
Austin does, it's different than our typical racetracks because there's so much there's so much property, and there's some really cool things. There's like always a Ferris wheel, and there's some roller coasters, some stuff for the kids.
You ride the Ferris wheel?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
I rode that one sketchy little ride that you can do that swings you up high.
Yeah, that is sketchy.
I did that.
When you get up there, it starts waving like this because it leaves you hanging up there, and it kind of
a little dicey.
You're like, pucker factor goes up a little bit.
We went to Disney last week, so
how's that?
I got my fill
of
rides. Yeah, Piper was the exact height, so it was awesome. That was the best time to take Keelan when he got to do all that stuff for the first time. But I can tell you, it's Guardians of the Galaxy
it's legit.
It's legit.
Okay,
that's the best roller coaster I've ever been on.
Okay,
it's
brand new.
Big endorsement.
Yeah, brand new, so
best roller coaster he's ever been on.
Yeah.
Speaking of roller coaster, time now for Mamba segment. The official sips.
I was like,
that was a pretty good transition right there.
All right, KB. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mamba Sips. Listen, this week in Atlanta, there was a lot of fans, but one in particular that we got to see, NASCAR Chasm, found them on the broadcast. Look at this. This kid is so stoked. He's so stoked that Kyle Busch, this is during the truck race, that Kyle won. And his dad grabs, he's got a Creed hoodie on too, actually, brings him down there. I think that's so great because this is what the sport's all about. This is exactly what, we watch the media and everything. It can feel like it's tough sometimes, but this is really what it's about.
You've been waiting for a Kyle Busch win, it says, and he got to see that at Atlanta. That's cool.
That is pretty cool. And one crazy stat that I heard this weekend in the trailer, and I know this is during your segment, so I don't want to screw it up.
No, you're not screwing it up.
But when Kyle Busch wins a truck race, on average, he finishes 6 spots better in the Cup race.
Really? That is very interesting.
I'm not shocked because when Larson, when these guys run more, they run better on Sunday. There is a correlation. When Byron ran those late model races, he won. He was ripping off wins in the Cup Series at the same time. I think there's a real correlation.
I always felt like I was at my best when I'd run 70, 80 races a year. Late models, trucks, Xfinity cars. It's time consuming and, takes away part of your life. But right now, this is your life.
The reps.
Interesting stat. Good job, Bert and Ernie, with that. Was it them?
Bert
they got that?
I think Bert found that one.
Oh, good job, Bert.
Yeah, thanks, Bert.
All right, you're up.
Yeah, we're still in it. All right, we're in the mailbag. I mean, there was one here that I read. I just thought would really get you guys' attention. This is from Kathy. I can't pronounce that last name.
McKay.
It is McKay. I didn't want to mess that up. Talk about other manufacturers. Shut up about Fords. You know there are other manufacturers. Right now, as I'm watching, there are 5 Fords and 5 Chevrolets in the top 10. I had to shut off for the Daytona 500. You guys are doing a poor job. Oh, shut up, Boyer. Shut Boyer up. He sucks. Bad. You did so good last year talking about everyone and shutting Boyer up. Hope you try harder. Kevin.
Well, there are a lot of Kathys in this world, so
there is
another Kathy moment. I'm sorry, Kathy, that we didn't talk about whoever your favorite driver is because you never mentioned it. So we'll get right on fixing that one. But I love the passion. But if you didn't notice, the Fords did control the race for most of the race. So I don't know what to tell you.
If you want the other manufacturers,
Thanks for your note.
Thanks for the note.
Yeah.
Thanks for the note.
Can you imagine waking up just that pissed off at people you don't even know?
No,
Oh, I can.
You can't?
Yeah.
She's like,
You
I've been-
can't.
Yeah, there are some. Last week, I didn't really like anybody.
Oh.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
Was that when you were grumpy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was grumpy.
It was
Maybe
grumpy.
she just
Maybe she's just having a
maybe
rough
she's
day.
just
yeah,
grumpy.
having a bad
It's a
day. But thanks
Kathy.
for your note, Kathy.
Get a Bush Light.
Oh,
Or make it
We had
Kathy.
another Kathy complaining last week.
No,
The
no,
Kathys are always
yeah, we
complaining.
did have
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
It was a Karen. Now it's
And
So
don't
we
be
got
a
the Kathy complainers.
Right.
The
right.
Kathy complainers.
This is not a Kathy complainer.
Okay.
This is a better one. Irfan,
Irfan?
I think.
Mohammed.
Okay.
From New
Irfan
York.
Mohammed from New York. In the early stages of your career, did you have a moment where you realized your talent was special? And if so, what/when was it? I can imagine you were winning all the local races, but did you realize, hey, I can actually make it to NASCAR and win?
I think there were a lot of those moments where you thought you could make it to the next level of what you were doing. And I always felt like you were always working to get to the next phase of what you were doing. That's a tough one. You know, I think at RCR, there were those moments where there was the moment we finally got the first win at St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Once we finally broke that barrier at RCR to get that first win in the Busch Series car, I felt like, okay, we can do this. We're on our way to figuring this out, and went on to win a couple more races that year. But I would say at RCR, that was definitely the moment. Everything in my Cup career was so screwed up with the way that it all started.
Yeah.
Everything that happened with Dale and getting the first win with 3 weeks into it, but having so many other things that were going on. I always felt like in my Cup career, I felt like I made it when I walked off at Phoenix because I was able to do it on my own terms.
Yeah.
And that was really how I approached it all the time. Was you need to find something new. We need to make sure that we're not keeping our eyes closed to what's happening around you. Always be open to what's next, because if you don't, you're going to get left behind in this sport. It's evolve or die.
Evolve or die.
KV, did you have a moment that you in your career that you were like, oh wow, like I can be a high level broadcaster?
I mean, I think when I got hired, when I was 24, they kind of brought me in. The timing was just right. They needed another reporter in Charlotte. They decided to put me on some of the trackside shows that were on the circuit. And I was like, well, I guess this is happening.
Right.
I've done several years at Langley Speedway, but now I'm getting the big call up to the big leagues.
To the big leagues.
Away we
big
went.
time.
Been here
And there we are.
14 years later.
Here we
Still
are,
here. Somebody-
crushing it. We got voicemails too.
Whoa.
So we have mailbag
Oh
and
my God.
voicemails.
Whose idea was this?
Tyler's, and I love it.
I love the voice.
Let's run it.
Hey, happy hour. Kevin Harvick. Love your show. Always liked you as a racer. I just wanted to know if the car right now works so great and produces great race on mile and a half, why can't they just make a different car for short tracks and a different car for road courses? Could you go into that and explain that?
Well, that's a loaded question. And I think exactly. It all comes down to dollars. I think when they designed this car, and as a sport, we've been working at trying to make the short tracks and road courses better. We've seen them change. We've seen them try these crazy splitters. We've seen them take the diffusers and take them basically off the back of the car. I think the biggest thing that has moved the needle is not the car. I think it's the tires. I think once Goodyear really worked and got to a point where they felt like the tire was soft enough and wearing out, that's really what has moved the needle the most. I don't think you're going to move the needle too far with what you have, with the package of the race car to make it just these big swings at downforce or whatever it is hasn't really pushed anything in a direction that's any different. So, if we had multiple cars right now, they can only have 7 cars. So each car number gets 7 cars, and that's all that you can have as a team. So you wind up racing a lot of these cars at the short tracks, intermediates, and super speedways. Sometimes you split them up into how those cars go through quality control and how they're measured and how they'll travel the back of the car. So there's a lot of technology that goes into everything that we do, but it'd be pretty tough to just create a different car for everybody to work on from an efficiency standpoint and cost. Cost is already higher than the owners want.
Right.
That's right.
And I will say I'm glad that it's the Goodyear tire is such a changer because we can work on that easier, I think.
Got to keep going.
We got to keep pushing it, though.
Yeah.
We have a second voicemail.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's go ahead. Let's hear it.
Hey, guys. I just want to say two things. Your answering machine is almost as slow as Kevin's last start at Bristol. And also, do you think it is safe and reasonable to think that they should bring back the talking during super speedway races with Atlanta coming up and all that? Do you think that should be a good thing to bring back? The communication between drivers in the race.
I think.
What did he say?
Something about the answering
He said
machine.
almost as slow as what?
As you
Something
at Bristol.
As slow as me at Bristol.
Yeah. But his question was, should
Guess
they
only
allow
one
the
few there.
drivers to talk to each other mid-race like they did, like you guys did
Oh,
when
that
you were
was
tandem?
that was so freaking cool.
I thought that was
when we
awesome.
had when we had the tandem drafting and we were able to talk to each other on the radio, and all of a sudden you'd switch over to somebody else would pop on your radio to the car that was in front of you. All of a sudden his spotter would start spotting on your radio. That was wild. And you would just randomly pick up whoever. If you didn't have a teammate or whoever that was. But the spotters, everybody had everybody's radio channel at the super speedway races, and finally they eliminated that. And you could only have your channels. Yeah. But at one point we had every driver in the field's channel.
That's awesome.
And you would sometimes be spotting with your own spotter. Sometimes you'd spot with their spotter, but you never knew how that was going to work because you'd be right up to the back bumper of the car in front of you, and you couldn't see anything around the spoiler and the back of the car because you just stay right on the back bumper and push them all the way around the racetrack.
I like the tandem times. I'm glad
that's
we don't
not
have
coming
it,
back.
It was fun to watch. I'm glad it was a little moment, but I don't need that every super.
And we still see them tandem.
Yeah,
they just can't stay attached like they could in those days.
It's so crazy.
I mean, it was like a magnet. It was wild.
Well, so that's our mailbag.
Thanks
Make
for
sure,
the messages.
great calls. I think if some of you are calling at late hours, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But make sure.
Careful how many beers you drink.
Yeah, careful. The number for the voicemail is 805-317-4175. And to email us, it's harvickhappyhour4@gmail.com. So keep them coming. Appreciate
Keep
you.
them coming. Leave a voicemail. Leave a pen pal note.
Whatever you need.
We want
Pen pal note.
all the things.
It's funny when they
except
come
Kathy,
through.
don't write us again. All right, time now, guys, for our last calls.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario, new customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see dkng.co/audio. NASCAR is not responsible for this promotion and used under license.
Before we get into our picks for this week's race out at Circuit of the Americas, let's take a look at the best bet of the weekend, courtesy of DraftKings there, Kevin.
We've seen some great bets this year. And I think when you look back at some of the bets that we've had in the previous race, Christopher Bell kind of takes the cake at plus 2,500, and that is a monster win for somebody if you had the guts to bet on Christopher Bell. But take the checkered flag with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code Harvick. That's code Harvick for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. So this week's best bet, definitely Christopher Bell at plus 2,500.
There you go. That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that
she handed that to me like I didn't have it.
Well,
I was trying to help
you looked
you.
like you were
I
struggling.
appreciate it.
That was a good teammate. That was a good teammate.
I was trying.
I didn't know if it was.
I was
front and center or not.
I was trying to figure out where the Christopher Bell piece that I wrote down was, and it's literally on the same card that I'm
Right in
looking
What
at.
front
I
of you?
get for trying to help him.
No, you did. Don't ever feel bad for trying to help.
Yeah, his chicken scratches aren't.
No.
You can't read them.
Oh goodness.
And I think-
all right, there you go.
I think that's the wild part about these super speedway races is you can find some buried treasure
Buried
in some of these
treasure.
DraftKings bets because of the fact that we didn't think Christopher Bell had a shot in hell And all of a sudden, at the end of the race, when all that stuff gets mixed up and the cars are crashed, and you never know how it's going to end.
The road course is kind of the same way.
Somebody made some cash off of Bell this week.
Someone
That's
made some
right.
money. I think his name is Marcus. He's always on our YouTube. Marcus is like a huge Christopher Bell fan. He calls him to win every race and win the champion. Yeah, so I guarantee he made some money this week.
Hope you cashed in, Marcus.
Hope you cashed in.
So we're talking about Christopher Bell. Time to grade the burnout, right?
Time to grade the burnout. So this one is kind of tough. I think in person it was probably better than what we got to see, but there was a lot of smoke. A lot of smoke. And I did like how he just parked down the front stretch and let everyone know that he was the man. But I can't say I was overly impressed with the burnout.
And I don't think he cares how we're going to grade this burnout. I don't think he cares one bit about what we say, but I'll give it a C.
Okay.
I thought it was just a
Christopher.
Just an average, smoky burnout, nothing spectacular. Car disappeared. I don't think he really cared. He won a super speedway race, and he is so freaking happy right now that he's put himself in the playoffs and in position to not come out of this first week stretch in a hole. Yeah, first 3 week stretch.
And his last 2 head-to-heads with Larson, he's won. One on dirt and one on.
I was thinking the same thing. When those guys were door to door coming down the back straightaway, I'm like, man. Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, here we go.
It's going to be a thing.
Another round.
It's going to be a thing.
Kevin wanted that to be a thing, the C. Bell Larson situation. And a reminder, C. Bell is his pick to win the championship also. Go. But let's do picks. Standings remain the same as how they were after last week. Me, Kevin, Mamba.
Yeah, but
we're moving on. We're moving on. Let's do our picks. I don't want to make anyone upset. Kevin, who you got to win in Cota?
I'm going to take William Byron. I think that, he just notoriously has the early season mojo to get into victory lane.
I like that word.
Has done well on the road courses. So I'm going to go 24.
Okay, I'm picking SVG, and I had mentioned at the he's laughing at me, bold predictions that I thought he was going to win multiple cup races, but I think he could be one of the guys this weekend. What say you to that, Mamba?
I think I talked myself into it. I'm going with the kid. Give me Connor Zilic.
Oh, man, what a story that
Give me Connor
Zilic. That would be wild.
Red Bull back. Connor Zilic first cup race.
How passionate he is.
Because I was thinking about it while I was sitting there. I'm like, he's already won at the top, the high level. Yeah. Like, he knows what he's doing. So, like,
well, you got to remember, this kid is raced on a world-class level with, they've raced all over the world in karts. He's run sports cars, late models, Xfinity cars, trucks, and he's been fast in everything that he's done. I think he'll be fast again. It's just a different level.
It's a different level. Go get him, kid.
Yeah, we'll have to see how all these picks fare. One driver I mentioned who's always been good at Circuit of the Americas over the years was Alex Bowman. I know you have a full interview coming up with him on Thursday.
We do, and this whole Alex Bowman drifting thing and
that was cool.
The time that I got to spend with Alex, I feel like I learned a lot about Alex Bowman as a racer and a person. Mm-hmm. This guy he's more hands-on than I had ever imagined. I didn't realize that he built his own cars and the way that he raced. And so it was fun to get to know Alex a little bit more and spend some time not only drifting, but to be able to do a little one-on-one conversation, and I hope everybody enjoys what turned out.
Underrated person, for sure.
Way underrated.
Underrated person.
Well, you can catch that on Thursday, so we encourage everyone to subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Also, rate us 5-star, leave a review, leave a voice note, leave a letter, anything for us here on the Happy Hour crew. We'll see everybody after Cota.